But if we're really candid, if we're really honest, we come to admit how many times a day we misrepresent ourselves in small and large ways. And we don't do it for malicious or even dishonest reasons. We often do it for compassionate reasons. You know, I'm protecting someone, I don't want to rock the boat, you can't just go around telling the truth all the time. You know, all kinds of reasons we give ourselves for misrepresenting the truth. It's not important that we go around telling the rest of the world these things that we discover. What matters is that we acknowledge them ourselves. As soon as you acknowledge an untruth, a lie, a misrepresentation in your self-image, in that moment, there's a freedom that happens. There's an opening that happens. It's like it says in the Bible about the truth setting you free. It actually does. When you tell the truth, it makes a space for new energy to come up in your life, and in your self-understanding. It takes a lot of energy to suppress the truth. And that's, of course, what we do in our shadow. This wonderful shadow, it's a useful survival mechanism. This compartment that we can keep all of our shameful, guilt-ridden, angry, confusing material in. It's useful, as long as we know what's in there. Because if you don't know what's in there, it's driving you. The shadow, if you don't examine the contents of your own shadow, those stories are going to drive you in your life. It's very important. It's also important to understand that that the shadow contains not only negative things, but also very often our strengths, our gifts, our passions, our desires. Let's say you were born into a family of bankers and doctors, and you wanted to be a tap dancer. You know, you put this precious thing, this thing that means the most to you and feels most, you feel most yourself when doing, into the shadow because it wouldn't be approved of. And we do this over and over and over in our lives. We put the things that we don't think are going to be accepted into this dark side. We pretend they're not there. And we wonder why we feel so lost. We wonder why we feel so passionless. The number one remark I get from people who come to my classes is, I feel like I'm not quite real. Not quite real. An imposter, somehow. Faking it. Hiding who I really am. I hear this all the time. And feeling ambivalent. That leads to ambivalence, because when we cut ourselves off from our own desires, we lose the will to grow, to create, to discover. You know, that's one of the great misconceptions in spiritual life is regarding desire. Desire, without desire, there is no growth. There are no books. There are no bookstores. There are no people coming to learn and to hear. We need desire for anything to grow in our lives, to manifest. But people misinterpret spiritual teachings to think that for instance, that the Buddha said that desire is the cause of suffering. That's not what the Buddha said. The Buddha said that craving and clinging are the cause of suffering. Craving and clinging. Without desire, nobody meditates. Nobody practices. Nobody seeks out wisdom. Okay, we need the desire. As the American poet Stanley Kunis wrote, what makes the engine go? Desire, desire, desire. And that's one of the first things that we are taught to put into the shadow because it's not sanctioned. How many of you were taught to be completely yourselves when you were kids? Be as original, as strange, break as many rules as you can, really find your own path, take that road less traveled. How many? I don't see a single hand going up. No, we're taught to behave. We're taught to behave because our parents love us. They want us to survive. They want to assure us our safety. They want us to be part of the group. There's nothing scarier for a parent than the thought about their child being an outcast. So they teach us to be part of the group. And they do that out of love. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to find our way back to our true calling, our true self. Robert Bly said we spend the first 40 years of our life stuffing things into the shadow bag, and the last 40 years taking them out. And it's true. And to become an authentic person means to take the material out of the darkness and hold it up to the light of day and say, what is this? What is this? How did that get in there? When did I start being scared to be a tap dancer? Or if you're a person who, say, your sexuality has been suppressed. And you wonder, why don't I have a love life? Where's my desire? Where's my tribe? Well, your tribe's in the shadow because that's where you put them. Okay, we often put what is most dear to us, most precious, and most motivating and energizing into the very place where we have least access to it. Okay, so that's one of the important things that we do in this writing is examine the contents of the shadow. And once again, when I hear somebody say, well, there's nothing in my shadow. Someone said it to me this weekend in Holyoke. There's nothing in my shadow. I've been a seeker for 30 years, I've been in therapy for 50 years, and nothing in my shadow. Guess what? Guess what? She discovered something that truly blew her mind, to the point where she's considering changing her life path. That's how deeply entrenched it was. That's how well hidden it was. And of course, this is how we survive. We survive by becoming smaller. We shrink to fit. And then we wonder why we feel diminished, why we feel smaller than we might be. So what writing does is it enables us to look at the story that we have created, to navigate through our lives, and deconstruct that story, explode that story.